Hey everyone, it's Cavell. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are returning, welcome back. Okay, so let me just manage expectations for this video really quickly. This is not a video to convince you about whether or not it is worth it to buy property in Jamaica. You have to think about that for yourself. When it comes to thinking about buying or building a property in general, it is a significant decision. You have to think about the pros and the cons. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the pros and the cons of building. So one of the first pros when it comes to building a house is the idea of customization, right? So if you have the money and you have an idea of what you want, like the sky is the limit. So whatever you want to do, from the layout of the house, from the fixtures, all those things is definitely up to you. Another pro of building a house that can also go for buying a house has to do with it's a new build, right? So new construction. Therefore, you're going to have less maintenance issues in the beginning when you are building that house. I guess this can also be another pro of building a house where you control the cost. But I'm going to come back to these points, but you can control the cost when you're building in terms of how much money you're going to spend to do all of the features, and you have to really think about what is important to you. So one of the cons when it comes to building a house has to do with it can be quite time consuming. Okay, it can take months, it can take years, especially if you're building something that is quite complicated. As Jamaicans would say, is if a chest eye, it might take you a long time to complete that house. If there are any difficulties that you may encounter, and if you've watched some of my videos, somebody like me encounters a lot of difficulties. And so going back and correcting that process delayed my timeline as well. Sometimes become frustrating or disheartening because you felt like things should have been done faster than they are. And trust me, unmanaged expectations is it would do it. So another con of building is that you have higher initial costs, and for me particularly, it was quite expensive. Not only did it have to do with the initial materials that I had to purchase in order to build the house, I also have to pay for the land to be surveyed, and you have to pay for the permits, right? Going to the municipality to get your plan approved and all those things. You have to pay for the plan. Whenever you feel like you start spending money, you don't start spending money as yet. I know it sounds confusing, but just hear me out. A small cost there, a small cost there, and then when you check it adds up. And this usually happens in the stage where it's time for rough cast and granite. You're like, can't. PTSD. Okay, another con can be stress. I'm not saying it cannot be stressful to buy a house, but as someone who bought a house and someone who built a house, in my humble opinion, I think that building is more stressful. I can say that it was quite an emotional roller coaster for me, where in the beginning I had this like big burst of excitement where I was really under the Lulu until the dreams become Cholulu. That was me. I felt like I could tackle anything that would come my way, and boy, the things them never stop come my way, right? And when the challenges them set in, I kept asking like, what else? Like really and truly, what else could I go wrong? And the minute I asked what else could I go wrong, things started to go wrong. And then when I started to see a little bit of progress, I started to feel better. My spirits were up again. And then when the man them start quote the prices, why I feel like say me have heart attack, because I said where may I get the money from, and and then you see this glimmer of hope when you're almost finished. And then when you're standing on the other side of construction, you start to think within your head that you can do this all over again. We've seen that the costs of building materials are increasing. We've also seen that the cost of houses in general in Jamaica is increasing. That's why every time I pass certain areas in Kingston, like Roampton I love Rompton. There's something about it where I really like Rompton. I don't know. I just like that area. I guess it has to do with like the size of the lots, as well as its proximity to a lot of different areas. I would pass and literally ask my dad, like, when everybody was looking houses over there, what were you doing? They are cactus. I enjoy yourself. I look my mother. And my mother, what she did there? I drink a night. Something to also consider when building is more of when it's time to resell that house. Because you can customize your house to your liking doesn't necessarily mean that your customization may be someone else's taste. The example that I'm thinking of right now is someone whose initial reason for building the house or intent for building the house is to be in the rental business. And the way how they designed the house, where it was like an apartment here, apartment there, and just like, you know, kind of like not a lot of thought into it. And it became harder to resell the house. So that is something that you should probably think about too if you're customizing and there's ever any thought of you reselling that property. Another con when building has to do with the weather, and I'm really thinking more of Jamaica and my experience, where the weather can be quite unpredictable. You dig the foundation today and then there's just a thunderstorm and all of that just get knocked. Or that one time when I'm gonna pave the driveway and then the rain just fall and wash off the top of the concrete. What am I just do? Finding quality builders, contractors can also be like scarce and time consuming, so that could be included into the cons of building. And you know you can lose money if the person is incompetent or just a blasted thief. Now that we talked about the pros and cons of building, let's talk about the pros and cons of buying a house. Hands down, one of the pros of buying a house has to do with more immediate availability, right? Now, immediate is being put out there loosely, because somewhere like Jamaica, it took about 6 months to complete the entire process of buying that house, but it can also take 2 weeks depending on where you are. So I guess potato. But usually the process is supposed to take a shorter amount of time as opposed to building. If you have your money like that, you can get your house done in like 3 months, right? A lot of times when you're buying, the environments are already established, which means they can get a fair assessment on the community, the schools in the area, etc., because it's already established and it's been established for some time. Usually, I would say, like I already said, it's my opinion, I think it's less stress to buy a house. The process can be a little bit more straightforward than building. Sometimes for some people this can be seen as a pro, where the older the home, it adds more characteristic and charm for you, and you like that colonial, Victorian, all them kind of words, their style within the home. So that could potentially be a pro for you. It could potentially be less expensive to buy a house if you are trying to buy houses that you're willing to reno those houses and so forth. Okay, so let's go into the cons of buying a home. The most obvious one has to do with like customization, right? You can renovate the house, but when you're buying it, you're buying the house as is. Sometimes you're compromising on your preferences because the layout is a certain way, unless you're one of those people where you love demo, you love reno, and you completely transform the layout of a space. But as you're buying that house, the layout is fixed at the time you are buying the house, unless you change it. There. Just like building a house, you can run into hidden costs. When buying a house, you can run into hidden problems. Hidden problems like the electricity, the plumbing, which can and will add up. So another con has to do with limited choices when buying a house. A lot of times we have a giant list of things that the house must have, and when we go out there on the market, we cannot find that house that meets the criteria that we've set And honestly, if you run into something like that, I can imagine that it could be beneficial to then just probably consider building. Sometimes when buying a house, you can get into pretty nasty bidding wars because everybody are trying to fight for the local property. Not to mention Jamaica, when it comes to scheme houses, trying to buy a scheme house sometimes feels like trying to find a unicorn. And I don't love that for us. If there are any other pros and cons that you can think of, please drop them in the comments so that we can start the conversation in our little community over here. So what do I think at the end of the day? At the end of the day, it's what I can afford to do. Home is a home. So it's what you can afford to do, and you are the one who make a home a home. Listen, if you're building your house, just take time and build your house. I'm not one to recommend construction loans when building a house or any of those things, and I won't go into that further. I prefer to just take money at a time and build it as I have the money to build. One cocoa food basket. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.